Welcome back to the conversation. I'm your sometimes host, Francesca Fiorentini. My next guest is the vice mayor of Culver City and a community organizer. Please welcome Daniel Lee. Daniel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Francesca. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
I meant to intro you as also running to be a state senator in District 30, which is the big news that the primary is in March. Mail-in ballots are in February, as you just told me, and I'm pretending like I researched and know all about. Tell me about this race. Tell me about District 30 and why you wanna go to Sacramento, really?
It's interesting that you ended that way because I went to Sacramento quite some time ago, believe it or not, as a private security guard, and it was not the best experience in the world. The job was fine. I was actually incredibly bored in Sacramento. No offense, Sacramento people. But like in the context of like the type of work that I'm very focused on, which is really focused on the working class, focused on addressing the climate crisis and environmental racism, focused on really bringing single payer to as many people as possible. I think I can do a better job of that in Sacramento versus Culver City. And in this race, there's an assembly member who I've supported in the past, but who is to the right of me. And then there is among the Democratic contenders, Cheryl Turner, who is a Democratic activist who is to the right of my contender, the assembly member. And then there are some Republicans, and there's a Peace and Freedom Party member as well. But really, this race is about Sydney Kamlager-Dove and who organizes well enough to like compete with her.
Yeah, and you have a lot of progressive creds to your campaign. The Sunrise Movement has endorsed you. You've agreed to not take any oil and gas money or big corporate donations. You are also on the board of Move to Amend, so I assume that you believe in just generally getting money out of politics. You've also agreed to not take any real estate development money. What's the importance of a candidate like yourself in the state senate or running for state senate to make these kinds of pledges?
I think it's super important in the context of like the material conditions that people deal with day to day. I actually had a candidate interview earlier with Unite here, Local 11, and they mostly represent people who work in janitorial services, people who work in hotels, people who work in a variety of very service-oriented industries. And that's a lot of the population of District 30. A lot of the population is Black and Latino working class people in South LA, in Mid-City, and downtown Los Angeles. And those are the people who've, to some degree, really been left out of the equation or out of consideration in Sacramento, for 20 or 30 years. There have been small wins here and there, but when the big things come before the powers that be, they're usually cast aside. And the one thing that I'll mention, I tried to push forward like an employee retention bill here in Culver City. And me and my colleague Megan Solly Wells were in favor. The LA City Council voted in favor 15-0 to rehire hotel workers who had previously established seniority and skill after the pandemic, which I thought was uncontroversial. And the same bill passed on the state level in the Assembly and the Senate, and the governor vetoed it.
Wow. I mean, I think for me, the importance of someone like you not accepting oil and gas money is that actually in the state Senate, there are a lot of legislators who have accepted oil and gas money. It's the biggest lobby in this state, despite all of our maybe not so deserved progressive accolades. We've got a lot of fossil fuel money throughout Sacramento and in the state legislature right now. So I think that's incredibly important. And I know that in the district you're running in District 30, you've also spoken a lot about environmental racism. What would you want to do on a statewide level about that issue? And I don't know, could we see a Green New Deal, a California Green New Deal? What are your thoughts?
Definitely. I think the Green New Deal, frankly, is the first step. We need a whole lot more than that. In Culver City, we work to close down the portion of the Inglewood oil field that resides in Culver City, but 90% is in unincorporated LA County, which means that we need county officials working with state officials to close down the rest of it. Throughout the district in places like around the University of Southern California, where I did my undergrad, where I'm doing my doctorate at the current moment, there are numerous sites where there's oil extraction, right next to people's homes, right next to apartment buildings. And that's the type of thing that we need to phase out. That's the type of Democrat that we need to push out, frankly. I was in my discussions with the Sunrise Movement, whose endorsement I'm happy to have. I'm happy to announce today that we've also secured the endorsement of Food and Water Watch Action. And we're hopeful to bring other environmental groups on board. But my discussions are like, there are basically Democrats in our current state legislature who might as well be like Republicans from 1986. Like there's like, no substantive difference. It's like they're Reagan Republicans who call themselves Democrats because they say the right things when it comes to social issues, even though they don't even act on those. But their fiscal policies do not support progressive issues.
Yeah. I just want to ask you about your time in the Culver City Council. In 2018, you were elected and you were the first African American to sit on that city council in Culver City's entire history, I believe. Correct me if that's wrong. What did that mean? I mean, that's incredible. And what did that mean for you? And how were you able to represent the Black community that is there? And just what kinds of issues did you bring to the table? What was that? What was that like?
Well, this might be a controversial reaction, but for me, it meant a lot. But I want to sort of diminish it. I don't think it should mean as much as sometimes people want to make it. Like this year, I worked with and helped the campaign of Yasmeen Imani McMorrin, who's the first African American female who's been elected to the LA City Council. But in the context of us working on that campaign, I was like, we need to be done with first. It's the 21st century, like I should have been or someone like me should have been the first African American male elected to the Culver City Council in like 1981. The fact that it had to happen in 2018 is basically just like deplorable. So
we shouldn't even be celebrating that. That's how pitiful it is. I mean, it's good, but it's like just the slowest clap of like,
yeah. It's like getting your In-N-Out burger like after 30 minutes, when your friend has to wait 35 minutes, and it's like, this is a win. Sort of. But like it's not really a win. It's like this should have happened a long time ago. And I think that's how we need both our California Democratic Party, which gets more credit than it deserves on the national level, to move forward on things like addressing climate change, like phasing out fossil fuels, like building housing for people in California, specifically in the 30th district, that they can actually afford.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on that because I think a lot of people are looking to the state legislature now that I believe rent control was not passed, right? Sort of a very minimal step toward California rent control in our most recent slew of propositions, in addition to approving Prop 22, giving, I think as people know, Uber and other companies this sort of opt out when it comes to classifying their employees as employees. But on the homelessness and housing crisis issue, what are your thoughts on the importance of real estate and the real estate lobby and industry, and what we can do to divest from that? I know you've done some work and thinking around it.
Yeah, on a very small level, one, I think we need much stronger renter protections. AB 1482 was a step in the right direction, but as you said, Prop 21 failed to bring stronger renter protections to all renters in California. Also, I'm very proud that we don't accept developer money and real estate money, but we need to go farther in terms of the type of bills that we bring forward in the state legislature. A lot of them have been developer focused, and they focus on increasing the number of units that are produced and developed, but they don't focus on enough on anti-displacement measures that would keep the people who are most rent burdened, who are most mortgage burdened, from having to actually pay 50 to 70%. The rent burden is classified as 30% of more, but I know people who pay 50 to 70% of their monthly income on rent or mortgage, and that's just unacceptable. But it goes hand in hand with actually raising wages, and we need to get away from this. Talk about both the fight for 15 and the minimum wage, and get back to talking about the living wage, because the $15 an hour, that might be great where I was born and where I grew up in Alabama and Florida, but $15 an hour in LA County, that's a poverty wage. That's what it is. We need a living wage.
Absolutely. Daniel Lee, Vice Mayor of Culver City, community organizer, just such an incredible history. You've done so much, and I'm really excited for your campaign, running for state senate here in California, in District 30. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me tonight.
And just one last thing, how can people find out more about your campaign?
You can go to danielwaynelee.com to find out more about my campaign. We also have a great video that's up on YouTube and a very good feature today in Los Angeles Magazine.
Nice, awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Take good care.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.